Oh, I'm uncomfortable. A soft humming invaded my dreams, stirring me awake. I blinked my eyes open to to unfamiliar surroundings, swaddled in a blanket that clearly wasn't mine. Where? Oh. I spotted the familiar figure of my host, seated on a stool in front of the fire, hands defiantly working on the green scarf bundled in his lap. His back was towards me, but I caught a glimpse of his fingers as the needles softly clicked between the yarn. He looked incredibly adept at using them, the rhythmic movements almost hypnotic as the fibers wound together in their intricate pattern. I slowly stirred into a sitting position, rubbing my eyes. The movement quickly caught his attention, ears flicked in my direction before the eyes trained onto me. It was just like last night. His pupils blew up as we made eye contact. His expression lit up as the instant he saw me. I was uncomfortable. Hey, I'm glad you're finally awake. You look so tired. I didn't want to disturb you until you'd gotten enough rest. Good morning, Michael. Good morning. Hi! Thank you. I appreciate the food.
I don't.
Why?
Because it's funny.
Oh. I'm trying to sound like a guy. I don't know if I'm doing well.
Well, he looks like a twink, so you can probably just sound like a girl and it'd be fine.
That's not helping.
Make him sound squeaky.
No. I don't know how to sound squeaky. Oh my god. No. Fuck. Did you sleep well? I was still too groggy to answer his question. A yawn slipped out as I stretched. He smiled kindly, a soft chuckle under his breath. Like a baby, then? I am married, thank you. He pointed over his shoulder to the door beside him in the fireplace, tilting his head towards it. You can freshen up in the bathroom if you like while I start on making food for us. I totally nailed that. I'd have eaten breakfast by now, but I wanted you to join me while the food is still hot. How does eggs and toast sound?
Sounds delicious.
Great. I'll see you in the kitchen then. He tucked away his knitting materials and set it aside. Oh, I also have a surprise for you after breakfast. It's not the most exciting surprise, but, just join me when you're ready. He ducked into the kitchen without another glance. I could hear his boots thudding on the floorboard, cabinets opening and closing in succession in the kitchen. I suppose that's my cue. I rolled out of bed, leaving the warmth of Michael's blankets, and trotted over to the door Michael pointed out. I stepped inside. I didn't know what I was expecting when he said he had a bathroom, but it was surprisingly spacious. Everything looked like it was carved and polished out of wood. It seemed to have everything you'd find in a modern bathroom: a sink, a cabinet, and a shower with a tub, even a toilet. Curious, I crept over to the toilet in particular, inspecting it. There wasn't a tank like you'd expect where the water would be stored. Instead, there was a compartment to the side full of sawdust and scoop. I expected to have at least a bit of smell, but it was surprisingly odorless. There was even a roll of toilet paper on the side. There was no flushing system, but it was hygienic. Michael seemed to have done his research. Walking over to the sink, I stared at the faucet before hesitatingly twisting it open. I jumped when I heard the rush of water pouring in, swirling in the basin before disappearing to who knows where. Wow! Why am I impressed at a damn functioning bathroom sink? I helped with dishes last night. I already knew Michael had plumbing. Shaking my head, I finished freshening up and headed to the kitchen. Michael looked up as I entered, a steaming kettle in his hand with 2 empty mugs on the counter. It might have been the lighting, but he was taller than I remembered. That's scary. Shit. Sorry, water break. Glancing to the table, I could see he already finished plating our food. Oh, wow. You worked fast. Michael looked proud of himself. I can't have my gas stay on an empty stomach. Go on, have a seat. Oh. Go on, have a seat. I'll join you in a moment. I forgot. I returned his smile and sat down, stomach grumbling as I looked at our plates. Oh my god, that looks so tasty. Thank god I have food now. Which I also have rice. Funnily enough. Once again, Michael was generous with the serving sizes. Fat slices of bread were toasted perfectly with crisp buttered sides, bright red tomato slices, and a crisp salad peeking underneath the fluffy eggs. It looked amazingly tantalizing. The smell of savory herbs wafting into my nose, my mouth watered. Michael settled down, a steaming mug beside me before settling down in his own seat. Yum. Sorry, I'm just gonna pause this real quick. I'm so hungry. Alrighty, back with the video. Peeking above the rim, I could see small flowers floating about, tinting the water yellow. It faintly smelled, of apples. I recognized the yellow dried pellets on the tea packaging I've seen before. Oh, chamomile? He nodded. I hope you like it. I'm sure I will. His smile widened as his tail swayed at the tip of his feet. He seemed more relaxed, showing his natural features this morning. Any trace of panic and hesitation from last night were gone, replaced by a look of contentment. Michael bit into his toast. I followed suit. The food was delicious as I expected. The chunk of toast I bit into was heavenly, butter sweet on my tongue. The tomato and salad provided a nice crisp balance. And the eggs. Something about the simple home-cooked food is just the best. Michael was happy to eat in silence, occasionally looking at me as I enjoyed my food. He smiled when our eyes met, his bottom pair narrowing into a happy squint. I wonder if he'd be open to some questions. Hey! Do you mind if I ask? How do you have plumbing in your house? I know it's a silly question, but I can't stop thinking about it. Oh? You were wondering about that? The embarrassed look on my face was probably enough of an answer. Oh, well, it's nothing fascinating. It's just rainwater I've stored above the cabin. Just rainwater? He nodded. I detected a hint of pride as he continued. It's actually a recent installment, believe it or not. Granted, the project took a while, gathering materials, figuring out the tools, finding the right instruction manuals. Plus, I had to figure out where to store the water tank. And don't worry, I installed the filtration system, so it's safe for us to use. I check it every few weeks just to make sure nothing's contaminated. That sounded daunting, especially considering he lived all the way out here in the woods. You did all that on your own? I kinda had to. Anyway, it took a lot of calibrating and adjusting, but it really worked out. And now that I think about it, I'm glad that you get to be comfortable here during your stay too. Does that answer your question? Yeah, I guess. How did you learn to cook? Cottage pie is a pretty complicated recipe. I was just wondering if anyone taught you how to cook. I'd I'd be lucky if someone could teach me how to make boiled eggs, Firefly. But it was trial and error mostly. My earlier endeavors were pretty much inedible. I picked up a thing or two cooking through. I picked up a wait. I picked up a thing or two about cooking though, so your taste buds aren't gonna fall victim to any nasty creations, like in my early days at least. Speaking of, did you enjoy dinner last night? Of course I did. You're really good at cooking, Michael. I'm glad. It probably wasn't obvious, but I'm really happy I got to cook for you. I don't get guests often in case you couldn't tell. I should ask you to cook for me every day then. He grinned at my joke, looking pleased. I'd be happy to. I chuckled as I took another bite. So, what's your favorite thing to cook? He lit up at the question. Fried mushrooms. Fried mushrooms? Yeah. There's plenty of them to find and it's easy to make. Huh. I do remember finding a patch of mushrooms yesterday. They smelled pretty funky though. You remembered that? What was that? Nothing. Anyway, mushrooms were the only thing I had to find for a while before figuring out I could eat other stuff like roots and veggies. Do you forage all your ingredients? Mostly. There's times I figure out how to catch a fish and hunt game that were the best of my life, I'll tell you that. My first taste of meat? He did an awkward version of a chef's kiss as mimicking something he saw on television once. Mamma mia. Was he trying to say Mamma Mia? As he continued before I could even dwell on it for a second longer, but nothing beats what you humans are able to make. You guys go nuts with your ingredients. Rice was a challenge. It's a precious ingredient since I have to actually get some from a store, but once I figured out how to make it nice and fluffy, I consider it a special treat. I did a double take. You go to the store? Yeah. Where else would I get it? I thought you would grow it yourself or something. He laughed as I flushed his embarrassment. It's flattering. It's flattering you think I'm even capable of something that impressive, but no. There's only so much the forest can provide. But what about money? We're talking human currency, right? Otherwise, how would you even... Do you actually have a job? A thought occurred to me. Or did you steal it? He almost looked offended. Do you take me for a criminal? No. But that would mean... Then... how? Michael bit into his toast, his two eyes winking in mischief. I have my ways, Firefly. What is that supposed to mean? What is it like living in the woods? I still can't believe how cozy you've managed to make it considering the whole middle of the nowhere thing. It wasn't like this when I found it. No? It was a major, fixer-upper. So the cabin was abandoned. I would have never guessed. Yeah, I'm really happy I get to live somewhere permanent for once. It's not much. Oh. It's not much, but it's home. What's it like? Peaceful. Quiet. I do like it a lot. The forest provides me with everything I need. And nobody bothers me for the way I look out here. His ears twitched slightly. Sometimes you just happen to end up where it's most convenient for you. And everyone else. The way he avoided my eyes as he said it gave me the impression there's something more to it. Like his home wasn't just out of convenience, but a fear of something else. Rejection, perhaps? Or something worse. Anyways, I don't really have anything else to say about it unless there's something specific you want to ask. He doesn't think about his answer much before beaming at me. What about you? I know you've told me a little bit about yourself, but what's it like being you? I scoffed, waving a hand. Please, I am the least interesting person in this room, trust me. Wow, that did be reality too. Huh. His eyes were shining in earnest as he leaned forward. Tell me anyways. Oh, well. I told him about my life, at least the parts I was comfortable with sharing. Just like last night, his eyes did not leave my face, occasionally darting about my features in interest. Yeah, I can't do that. I hate eye contact. It makes me uncomfortable. Unless it's someone that I, like, genuinely trust. The direct oogling was making me nervous, but I suppose I was doing the exact same thing when it was his turn to talk. Eventually, I came to the topic of my job and the woes of living in modern capitalism. I'm a bit jealous. You have the whole cottagecore aesthetic practically perfect. His face morphed into a confusing pout. Cottagecore? I explained to him in my own words. Oh, so you're saying you want to live the way I do, out in the woods? I nodded without hesitation. I mean, I wouldn't mind showing you the ropes. His tone seemed strangely, lilted? How do you say that word? Is it lilted?
Lilted.
Lilted? What would that even mean? Alright. What do you mean? Never mind. Anyways, I don't get what the appeal is, but it's not easy, you know. The forest provides, but it's up to me to make use of it. Starting out was... A dark look crossed over his face, as if reliving a bitter memory. Rough. But I am built for survival. I feel like asking him to elaborate would make things awkward. I decided to veer the topic into a different direction. Doesn't it get lonely? Sometimes. But I'm used to it. He smiled, his eyes lighting up. Excuse me. Besides, I do have you at the moment, don't I? Never thought I'd enjoy having someone around. You must be really special. I'm starting to know a lot more about Michael. He didn't directly say it, but I felt like he was lonelier than he was letting on. Not to mention how he managed to make a home for himself all on his own. I had to wonder if he had anyone at all. Do you have any family around? Family? His expression turned solemn for a moment before he looked sheepish. Remind me how that works again. I get the concept based on some books I've read. I don't have what you call parents, if that's what you're asking. My mouth dropped open in shock. No parents? He shrugged and took another bite of the toast. Not that I recall. Then how did you... What's that like, living with so many people like you, such a close proximity? Huh? That's how it works, right? You and the other humans living in one house, and you have this DNA that makes you relate to the rest. That's what makes a family, right? Is he talking about DNA? His definition threw me off. I had to answer somehow. Not just that. Family is people you're related to, like your mom, your dad, your siblings, your relatives. People that you love and care about. People that you love and care about. Family does not have to be blood. He seemed intrigued. Is that so? That does sound nice. Is there anyone that you love and care about? I like my friends. My family's kind of right now. Your friends can your friends can be considered your family too. Yeah, I don't see why we have to be related to be a family. I even consider my cat my family. Oh, and this is the same for all families? I bit my lip, pondering the question. It would be naive to think that. A lot of families do love and take care of one another, but not everything's perfect. Sometimes that love can be misplaced or taken advantage of, or even abused. Michael looked thoughtful. So, it starts with love? I've read in some stories about that. Love, I mean. Though certain feelings just don't make sense to me. I'm sorry. At least from a reader's perspective. I guess you'd have to experience for yourself to understand. He stared at me, unblinking for a moment. Yeah, you might be right. I never considered that. Then again, who would bother loving a monster like me, huh? Huh? You're not a monster. I look like one, don't I? That's besides the point. You're not denying it, though. Bish! It's okay. You don't have to lie to me. So, family? Right? To be fair, everyone's definition of family could be different. What about you? What's your definition of family? Michael looked surprised I asked him that question. I don't know. I never had one, and I think your answer just confused me more. Well, if you ever figure it out, let me know. Michael stared at the remains on his comfort plate before he nodded, avoiding my gaze. Sure. We both fell quiet. The lull in conversation blanketed us in a comfort silence. All this family talk, it reminded me of the reason why I'm out here in the first place. To look for my beloved cat, a sight I might never be able to see again. I couldn't help the sinking feeling in my chest, the growing pit in my stomach. I wish I was able to find Pixie. You would have loved her. Michael opened his mouth to say something, but changed his mind. My voice warbled and a lump formed in my throat. Sorry. I just miss her so much. I keep thinking if I just went looking for her sooner, maybe I would have been able to find her by now. He was quick to speak up. You did your best, Firefly. No one's ever gone to the lengths that you did. You must have risked yourself getting... I'm sure wherever she is, she's doing okay. You really think so? I know so. He definitely freaking killed her. He killed my cat. This bish. His voice was laced with confident assurance, despite the worried look on his face. I nodded with a quiet sniff. Sniff. I hope so. She's just important to me is all. So dramatic. If it was a dog, granted, I have the cats and I have the dog, but if it was a dog, I'd be booking it for that dog. Cats are nice, but they also just hate us sometimes. Michael looks like he wanted to reach across the table for me, but sighed instead. Actually, I'm sorry. I should tell you. Maybe I don't have a family now, but now that I think about it, that was the surprise I mentioned before. Wait, really? He nodded. Are you done? I could take you to go meet them right now. I looked down at my plate. During the conversation, I didn't even realize I finished the meal. Yeah, I'm done. His movements were quick, stacking our empty plates and mugs and setting them in the sink. I just want to make sure that I'm still recording. Yes, I am. It has been an hour. Actually, because of that, I'm gonna do a thing.